There we go. Okay. All right, you guys, welcome to week 4. Thank you for hanging with us. We're closing in on the end. Just a couple more weeks. This week is super interactive, and then after that, the next couple weeks, we're kind of back to teaching you some things that will be helpful for you. So did anyone use either of the dialogue tools in your coaching calls this past week? Do you remember what the dialogue tools were? Who can tell me what the tools were?
Playing devil's advocate was one of them.
Yep.
And assuming a different reality.
Did any of you all use those?
I use devil's advocate.
I'm really good at devil's advocate. It just comes naturally to me, I think.
Yes, it does.
Anyone else use any of them? If you don't want to unmute, which you're welcome to, there aren't that many of us on here. You're welcome to comment in the chat too.
I use devil's advocate because she's really reserved about presenting the opportunity to join. And I said, but what if you do bring it up? Whose life could you be helping? And that was a big turning point for her. Like a light bulb went off in her head. Like, okay.
That's fantastic. And really, I mean, sometimes that's all it takes, right? And I remember years ago, I said to someone, why can't you be a director? And she said, that was it. That was a light bulb moment. And I mean, literally within a month, she hit director, but she had never assumed that reality. So, all right, anyone else want to share? We got a whole 5 minutes allocated to this section, you guys. Feel free, share away. Nobody? All right, well, let's keep moving then.
All right, so we are going to continue practicing our coach model and using our powerful questions. We told you last week that you're going to come with a scenario, right? So you guys are all ready. In a moment, we're going to be dividing you into groups of 3. Do we have?
Yeah, yes.
No? Okay.
I think so. That's what was trying to do when it sent me elsewhere.
Yeah, okay. So you, in your group of 3, you're going to take turns going through your mock coaching session. One of you will be the coach, one will be the coachee, and the other one's going to be the observer. And then you're going to rotate the roles 3 times, okay? So that each of you has the opportunity to be each of the roles. And the person who has the newest join date is going to be the coach. Then the person with the middle join date is going to be the coachee, and the longest consultant is going to be the observer first, okay? And then you're going to switch.
We've got a couple people joining, so give me 1 sec because I want to make sure they get to a room.
Okay. So in this session, in this time, you're going to have 15 minutes each. So we're going to, it's going to be 45 minutes in your breakout room. And you're going to have 2 minutes in between there to provide some feedback. So if your role is the observer, I just want you to be a silent listener. Take some notes on what you feel the coach is doing well, and also at least maybe one area that they can improve on too. Constructive criticism is always great in this. And we know each other probably the best as far as what roles and what questions we could be asking too. So provide some good feedback there. Then there's space in your workbook on page 16 for you to take some notes if you're the observer. Even if you're the coach or the coachee, take some notes down there too. And then they're going to provide the coach with feedback after and then switch. Okay?
All right, I got the room set up. Does anyone have questions? Just to be clear, because I know some of you are a little confused on this still. It's gonna pop up on the screen and ask you to join a room. And you have to click on it to join the room, otherwise you'll stay here. Okay? All right, I'm gonna open the rooms and then 15 minutes, 2 minutes for feedback, and then switch. And I'll pop in and tell you that it's time to switch.
Yep. And you are taking your own scenario to your coach. So the coachee should already have their scenario ready to go.
You guys get it? Last chance. Okay.
All right, so how did it go? Who's gonna be the first one to pop on and tell us how it went, what went well, what was challenging, what was your favorite part being the observer, coach, or coachee? So who's gonna hop on and unmute or hop in the chat and let us know how it went?
Oh, Jennifer.
Yeah, I'll try to go first because I absolutely enjoyed our chat we had, which of course we didn't really stay on topic like we should have, but we did still accomplish what we needed to. So, I mean, I have a front line that is just got some drama going, but these girls helped me in trying to figure out how to deal with that. So I'm good.
Excellent. Who else wants to share?
In our group, I'm muted. In our group, I served as the coach and the observer. We didn't get to switch through the third time, so I never got to be the coachee. I found as the observer, sometimes it's hard to just sit back and observe because you want to give a question to ask or you want to give a suggestion. So it is hard on that. And like I told the girls I was with, sometimes I think when it's a topic we're more comfortable with or more familiar with, it's easier to ask those questions and to either assume the reality or play devil's advocate than when it's a topic that we aren't as familiar with or struggle with. As the coach, I felt like I did okay. I know in the end I kind of went from coaching to a little bit of teaching based on the needs that she needed, but it was kind of just trying to help her get to the end goal because there was a few things she didn't know, so we kind of had to go to that teaching platform. So she knew how to take that as her choice and use it. So, and it was funny because the scenarios were all very similar for us three. We all kind of had the same situation that we brought.
And that sometimes can make it harder to coach on if you're already struggling with that same situation too, right?
Yeah. I think Rachel and Rochelle would agree. I think it was pretty good. We did well.
Good.
Some great ideas.
See, and you have a takeaway from tonight too. It's not just all teaching. You got some, some info you can take with. Anybody else?
I can go. I was with Vicki, and there was only two of us in our room, so it actually kind of worked out so we could talk a little bit more in depth with it. So her issue was recruiting, and then I had follow-up, and she was awesome with follow-up, and I'm fairly decent at recruiting. So I will say it is super hard when trying to ask questions to get them to answers when they are running out of ideas. They've kind of exhausted their ideas, so they're searching for ideas. But that was definitely kind of challenging on my end as the coach to ask questions without her coming up with the ideas because she's already tried certain things. So, but I did find that when she was coaching me on follow-up, asking those questions, and like I was kind of almost answering questions without her asking them and kind of talking through all of those things. So it was nice to have that somebody that was really good at what I was struggling with. So that helped.
Love it. Anyone else want to share?
I will. So I really liked having like almost 2 people there, because I feel like it really helped to, like, when I was being the coach and I was asking the questions and then all of a sudden I got stuck, or I just didn't quite know how to get them to where the realization is. It was nice to have somebody else say, you know, I have kind of a little bit of a viewpoint, and to have them come in, because I think it's like they almost see what I'm missing. So I kind of liked having that 2 people there to kind of go back and forth with. I think that was helpful for me. And I also liked being an observer, because I feel like I got a bit of a different perspective on.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. Anyone else?
I really enjoyed being an observer, because it was really interesting watching how the questions came about and how they were answering, and seeing the confidence in the coachee as she was coming up with all the different answers. It was really interesting, really interesting.
It's kind of like being a fly on the wall, you know,
Yeah,
like a,
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was watching a master in action. She was amazing.
you all are pretty amazing, I'd say. Anyone else? And you'll notice Hannah got electricity back.
I know, right?
She's not in the dark anymore.
Into the light.
All right. Well, do you have any questions about it before I give you your homework? No? Okay. Your homework.
What do you do when the topic's hard? Like when you're not familiar with and you don't know what questions to ask, and you don't want to sound like you don't know how to help, but you honestly don't know how to coach that situation because it's not something you may necessarily have the knowledge on or have ever had to.
Well, and sometimes, I mean, sometimes you might actually give better coaching if you don't have any experience with it, because then you can't sway the conversation and they really have to dig deep into themselves. What would you say, Hannah?
Yeah, exactly. And you don't know what you want them to say.
Yeah.
You know, so Sydney had given the example when we were doing ours that she could coach somebody on a sport, but she knows nothing about that sport. And it's almost easier to keep asking the questions because you need to know, and you need them to tell you how it goes and what they've done and what they could do, because you don't know anything too. I almost, like, it was funny listening to you say that, Nikki, because when you said it's easier to coach when you know the situation, and I've thought, that is a great insight, because I think that'll take you even further, because for me, I'm still going in that teaching mode because I still want to tell them what to do next too as well. So I almost think it's going to be easier for you when you don't know, because they really have to be leading and coming up with the answers and the action plans and steps that they're going to have to be taking too.
And I think you just go back to those questions we gave you. Go back to, what's the situation? What do you want to accomplish? What have you tried? What might work? What do you think the problem, what's holding you back? What's whatever? And just keep going back to those questions until they come up with something. Okay. And if they don't come up with something, maybe that isn't really what they want to talk about, or what the issue is.
I have a question. It's kind of the opposite, actually. What do you do when someone opens with all of the answers and they tell you their desired goal, what they've tried, what they've, everything? Basically, they just lay it all out there, and you're like, oh my God, I don't know what to ask next. What do you do in that situation?
Well, if they tell you everything they've tried, I would go back to, so when you did this, what were the results? And what I really like is, was there a time you felt you were successful with it? If they've tried all these things and they've failed, or they don't think any of these things have worked, is there a time where you felt something did work? And what were you doing differently then? Or what is the expectation? What really do you want to get out of it? And what other things could you try? You've tried all these things you've told me.
What about if they've never been successful before? Do you think that just is the wrong thing for them, the coaching call then? Do you think they just need to go back to like mentoring then? Is it like
They might
bit
just
of
need
game?
some teaching or mentoring, yeah. And unless you really think they haven't tried all the things. You know, if they tell you they've talked to thousands of people, they probably really haven't. Maybe they've talked to 10, you know? So
Right. And asking them, why do you think it didn't work? Or why did it fail? Because that could even lead them into that the action was, or the steps were right, but maybe the action or how they presented it needs to be tweaked in order for it to actually then succeed too. So I think even asking the question, why didn't it work? Why is it not working? If you've tried all these things, how do you think you could do it even differently? Shifting their direction. So, even though they may have all those answers, it's still not working.
Yeah.
So there's something in there that's not connecting.
Yeah. Okay.
Does that help or not?
It does actually, yeah, because in our little role play, I did get a lot of information straight up. And there was something that was tried that didn't work that first time, and I kind of, instead of asking why, which now I wish I had done, thank you very much, instead of asking why it possibly didn't work, I kind of focused on more of her relationship with moving forward from that. It's kind of like it gave her a mental block to try again, and I kind of went into working on that than why it didn't work. Maybe that's a bit too much therapy. I didn't offer anything, but that's where my mind was. I wanted to make her feel confident to try again, in a way.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that though either. Sometimes that's why it didn't work. Sometimes you get that psychological block that you'll never be successful because one time you weren't. So, and you can coach on that without going to therapy, right?
Yeah. I don't think, I think I still coached, but that was what was in my mind. And then at the very end, I was like, oh my God, I just want to mentor again. But I was a bit worried about role play tonight because I'm a bit tireder than I usually am. So I'm wide awake now. But yeah, no, I know now I could have added in a why do you think that didn't work? So that's great.
Does anyone else want to share?
Should I be filling a silence? How long would you leave a silence? Because sometimes if I ask them something, I almost feel like there's something else that they wanted to say, but I don't want it to be quiet and awkward for too long. So what's the acceptable length of silence before I ask the next question if I think something else is coming?
I don't know if it was Sydney or Susan who said during ours, don't be afraid of the silence.
Yeah, but for how long? Like, is 4 minutes too long?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't probably let it go 20 minutes. but initially you might feel the silence and they don't, because they're still thinking. You're giving them a chance to really think.
Yeah, so one of that I've had with my team, I felt like there was something else coming, but I felt really awkward about the silence. So I feel like I moved her on too quickly when I felt like she was probably just thinking.
Do you think that's something you could ask? What else are you thinking about?
Yeah, I could add that in.
Is there something else you think we should be talking about, or is there something else you think getting in the way, or without putting her on the defensive?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would say 20 minutes is probably too long. If you've poured through a whole bottle of wine, it's probably too long.
I don't think coaching's for me.
No, you're doing great. You're doing great.
Last week too, Karen, you and Hannah had told us, because I went back to my notes, don't be afraid of the silence. Let them think longer and fill it in.
Yep.
The process doesn't cut out the relationship piece. It enhances it on the part of the coachee.
Yep.
So, I mean, sometimes it takes longer than 30 seconds. I mean, some people, but no, not 20 minutes.
No, and
But-
if you don't give them time to think through it, if you rush them through the process, and you may not really get to the meat of it, So,
And I think you also need to think about having coaching sessions, not just like one-on-one in calls too, but I'm having a coaching session right now in a Facebook message with a downline member. And so you don't know where there's silence, right? But she's not messaging me back right away. She's thinking about the question and, reflecting on it too. So I think there's different forms of coaching. So it's not just always just a call too, but giving them that time to reflect and to come up with the answer and to think about the situation. So don't be afraid of that silence. I would say, maybe we think that 2 minutes, I don't know about you guys, but I think when we give a moment of silence, 1 minute, sometimes that becomes awkward. 1 minute is a lot of silence. But sometimes it takes us a couple minutes to formulate that too. So yeah, don't be afraid of that. And coaching is for you.
yes,
It's just
it definitely is.
training your brain to turn that coaching on and having it in different formats too. It's not just a call. It can be in a message. It can be in a Marco Polo, whatever, and in an email too as well.
I've never ever thought about doing it in a message. Actually, that would probably help me a lot.
Yeah, it was a downline that came to me today, and she gave me a situation, and so I thought, you know what, I'm going to try this just in a coaching way. And so I know it's going to, when she looks back, she's going to be like, Hannah was just asking me question after question after question, but I'm already seeing her come up with the answer instead of me just giving it to her, because if I just give it to her, I'm not equipping her with the tools, I'm enabling her. So her coming up and walking through the steps of what she has done, what she hasn't done, what she could do better, it's a coaching session right there in Messenger too. So
could we do, because I know when I was in the classroom and I would ask questions, they would tell us, give your students, 30 seconds or so to think. If I ever had a student who was just struggling or really wasn't ready to give an answer, I would say, okay, I want you to think about that, and then I'm going to come back and ask you again that question later. I mean, is that something we could do here? Say, okay, I want you to think about this, and let me ask you another question. And then maybe as you go through the conversation, something else you may ask may make them think of an answer, or it actually will end up answering that question. And then when you go back to it, they may be able to answer it at that point.
Yeah. And the more you coach someone, the more they will start to understand and kind of come up with their own process and their own answers.
Okay, well, my question is, what do you do when you have know-it-all downline and they don't even want to answer your own questions?
I'm not sure there's someone, they should be coached then. I mean, you should put your time into those who warrant it, not those who demand it. That's straight from the mouth of Orville years ago, but do they want coaching?
Well, the thing is, they think they know more than anybody. And I even tell all my team on a daily basis, I'm like, I don't know everything, but I will go try to find the answer.
Well, none of us know everything. I mean, we're all always learning, right?
Yeah, but they tell their teams to do things that are OOC and all this, and I'm like, I can't deal with that. I mean,
don't let them suck that energy out of you. Then focus on the ones who want your energy. And
Yep.
I'll give you a perfect example. I reached out to my team Thursday, and I had a girl come back that just, in fact, I sent Karen the screenshot. I'm like, okay, help me. This is the perfect opportunity to coach this girl. But I was so I wasn't prepared to have to coach her, and it was via text. But, I was asking her how her month end was looking, and she was like, I'm the only one who buys for myself. I'm pretty much over it. 3 exclamation points. And so I came back with, okay, well, what have you tried? What do you mean?
Well, and she said, didn't she say I've talked to everyone?
Yeah.
Or something.
And well, hold on, I'll pull it up because basically, as I started to coach her and ask her questions, she totally avoided the whole conversation. Started giving excuses. So she said, no one other than me has ordered. I'm over it. I said, I'm sorry. What have you tried? She said, party, local order, etc. And I went back with, well, when you, etc. ... What is that? Trying to coach you here and help. Tell me a little bit more about the party. Who was the host? Was it online? Was the host interactive? It's a big month for sales, so I want to help you get this figured out. And her response was, I'll text you later. It's been a long night with thunderstorms. So I said, okay, sounds good. Don't forget tonight is general session 1 of SFR. If you can try to watch some expos and see if that will help you too. Talk to you soon. I haven't heard a thing from her.
Yep.
Yeah. The majority of my team, it's like, you know, I offer like, hey, I want to help you. If you want to do a coaching call, let's do it, blah, blah, blah. But most of them, they honestly think they know everything and that they don't need any help. And they're digging themselves a hole that they're not going to be able to get out of. But I've taken their front line under my wing because their front line has come to me and said, I'm done with my sponsor. And I'm like, okay, I will help you. All you have to do is ask, and I'm there. So,
Jennifer, can I give you the best advice that I've ever been given by a superstar director?
yes.
You bless and you release those people. The people who don't want to learn, you bless and you release them, and then you just carry on. You keep that front line underneath of you, and you carry those wings, and then you coach those people, because what's going to happen is as they dig their grave, you're building those other people up, and they're going to over promote them, and that's the best thing that can happen. So bless and release that. And Nikki, with that other girl that was texting you, the best advice I was ever given was to bless and release those people, because they are wasting your time. It's just toxicity, and you just don't need them. Bless and release them.
Well, and you don't want to coach. You don't want to coach someone who isn't coachable.
Right.
I mean, that's not going to get you anywhere. So, all right, let me give you your homework assignment so that I can stop the recording. This week's assignment's pretty simple. Reflect on your homework from week 1. Remember week 1, it's like, are you coaching or are you doing therapy or counseling, or what are you doing? Think about your current skill level with coaching, and based on the feedback you received tonight, draw a comparison to where you were and to where you are now with your understanding of coaching. And then record your aha moment that you've had with coaching since you started the workshop. Post your homework under Unit 4 in our Facebook group. And it's there already, and it has the assignment listed for you.
Karen, can you show us that screen?
Oh, you want to see it? Yeah, I could. How about that? Maybe I'll do
I
that
can
for you.
screenshot it. Thank you.
Yeah, there you go. Kind of forgot about the PowerPoint. Here you go. Reflect on your homework from week 1. Think about your current skill level with coaching, and based on the feedback you received today, draw a comparison to where you were to where you are now with understanding of coaching. Record your aha experience that you had with coaching since you started the workshop. And then 5 and 6 both offer a little more. I was trying to remember what 5 is. I didn't look it up. Is 5 more working on a plan, Hannah? Do you remember?
Yeah, that's the action plan, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And then 6 is implementing your coaching plan. Yes.
Yeah.
So lots of good information still to come. 2 more weeks. Keep practicing. Practice with people who want to be coached. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else, you guys? I know you've all had a long week with SFR and all that, so we'll let you get some sleep. And
Yep.